Hello, my name is Ramon Smits, and in this video I will try to explain to you how to get live audio ducking usable for when you are streaming, where, for example, a background music will lower its volume while you are speaking. In order to achieve this, we need a couple of software bits. First of all, we will need Voicemeeter. Voicemeeter is an audio panel replacement for Windows. We need Voicemeeter Banana. Voicemeeter Banana allows us to use VST inserts. Then we also need a VST host. The host that I'll be using in this video is called Cantabile. Just go to its download page and select this last stable build for version 3. Then we also need a VST plugin which allows us to do the actual effect. The effect that I'll be using in this video is called a compressor. To be precise, a sidechain compressor. This is part of the Reaper VST plugins and free to use. Go to this URL and then select the VST version applicable to your system that you would like to use. I will be using the regular one, the 32-bit one. What I want to accomplish is that when I speak, that any other audio source is being muted. Or if I'm in a Skype call or listening to some kind of a voice stream, that when someone is speaking, that my audio, like for example Spotify or another radio stream, is also being slightly muted. But only when there is someone speaking. Because Windows also already has this feature that when you're in a call, that the audio can be muted automatically. That's not what I want to accomplish. I want to have the audio being muted. I've already installed Voicemeeter, and I want the playback devices and the recording device to be set to Voicemeeter. So here's what I do. The auxiliary inputs, I make them the default communication device, and the regular input, make it the default device. And the same is going to be applied to the auxiliary recording devices. Oh, sorry. So this would be comms and default. Meaning that if I'm using an application that wants to use voice audio, it likely is going to choose the default communication device. A radio stream or Spotify, for example, will be using the default audio device. What I'm going to do now is I have Foobar, which is a audio player, and I have a stream. As you can see now, the stream is playing, and if I look in Voicemeeter, I see that the default audio device is being used. That's this one, and you probably currently cannot hear the stream, but I have now enabled it. You probably now hear the stream. So let's say I have it set to this volume. While I'm speaking, you notice that currently the volume is not dropped. That's what I want to accomplish here. So how to do this? We can use Voicemeeter's Insert feature here. What we do is we go to System Settings, and here we are going to say, okay, I want the main input, which is my voice, and I want an insert. I want to also use the insert of the default audio device, which in this case is input number 4, and only in this specific case channels left and right. And channel 5 is going to be the input and output for the comms devices. So I enable that as well. And then I'm done. So what I'm now going to do is I am going to open up Cantabile. So I go to the input options, and as you can see here, I've selected Voicemeeter Insert Virtual ASIO. What this does is that's going to use a Voicemeeter ASIO API, and it's going to expose the inserts that are listed here into Cantabile. What I also have to do is I have to create audio ports for these. So what you can see here is that I have banana number 1, which corresponds to insert number 1 left. Oh, and I see an error here. And this should be insert number 1 right channel. And I also have other mappings. So for example, in this specific case, I also require channels 4 and 5. So let's look at those. Channels 4, that's this one. I named it AUX1. This is the output channel. You also have to define the input channels for these. So that's these, AUX1, Audio 2. And I also have a corresponding out channel for each of these. So AUX1 out, AUX2 out, banana 1 out. So what I'm now going to do is map the channels so that you can still hear me during the recording of this video. So you should be able to hear me again, as well as the audio in the background. So let me try to explain what happens here. My microphone is on channel number 1, which is mapped by Voicemeeter Banana. My voice is then routed through the insert to Cantabile, which in this case is banana number 1. And within Cantabile, I have configured it to route it back to the out ports of insert number 1. So basically, microphone is coming into Voicemeeter Banana, routes it to Cantabile, and routes it back to the exact same channel. And I did exactly the same for channels number 4 and number 5, which I've named AUX1 and Audio 2. And maybe let's for now rename it so that they're a little bit easier to understand. So now all channels are renamed and mapped again. So now it's much easier to correlate them. So 1 is this track, 4 is this track, and 5 is this track. You should also still hear the music, but it's still not muting. So what exactly is it that I want to accomplish? I want to accomplish that when my voice is active, that the music is muted, or when there is volume on channel number 5, that my voice is muted. That channel number 4 is muted. How to do that? So we want to first of all add a compressor on channel number 4. So we can use the compressor as I'm listing here, and as you can see, it's a simple compressor. But what do I need to do here? I want to route channel number 4 to this compressor, as you can see here. Now you're not hearing any music, but what I now want to do is I want to route the output of the compressor to channel number 4. And now you should be hearing the music again. So what happens here? Audio is being played on track number 4, being routed to Cantabile. Track number 4 is being routed to this plugin, and the output of the plugin is then routed back into Voicemeeter Banana. What we now need to do is we need to configure additional ports. Why? Because we currently only have 2 channels being assigned to the compressor for the audio, but we also need additional channels to sidechain the voices of tracks number 4 and 5 into the compressor. So we need 2 additional channels. How do we do that? We configure audio ports. And here you can see that in this specific case it's already I had to manually add these if I'm not mistaken, but here you can see that stereo 1 is main input left and right, stereo number 2 is auxiliary input left and auxiliary input right. So what we now want to do, we want to add additional routes. You may ask yourself, why not route channels 1 and 5 to the compressor? If we do that, then the audio will not return to these corresponding channels. So it's not a replacement, we just add additional routes, which we can do. So Banana 1 is going to be routed to stereo in 2. And maybe for reference, we're just going to rename the audio ports. So I'm going to rename it like this for easy reference. So I'm going to say, okay, I want to route my voice to the sidechain channel of the compressor. And I also want to sidechain channel number 5. So now we're almost there. We go back to the compressor configuration. And as you can see here, the compressor is currently receiving the music, as you can see here. And if I would enable the compressor, you will see that the... let's check. Channel number 4. Compressor. Yeah, why is it not being limited? That's... Did not expect that. Well, let's see what's wrong here. Probably this one. Yeah, as you can see, I now activated the compressor. And you see, once the volume level is below this specific threshold, that the volume is being compressed, silent. But we don't want to do that with the audio of the music channel. Now we want to use the voice channel for that. So what we're now going to do is select auxiliary input. And as you can see, based on the volume response bars, is that now my voice is being used. So let's see what now happens. We put the volume up of the music. And now I'm going to lower the threshold. So when I'm now speaking, the audio is being lowered. So maybe we want to use a little bit of a less aggressive configuration. Something like this. So when I'm now speaking, the audio is now being muted. So as you notice, the music is returning to its original volume quite fast. So what we want to do here is we want to tweak the release duration. The default is 100 milliseconds, but we can now move it to, for example, half a second. So if I'm continuously speaking with short interruptions, then now the release is much slower and will result in the music to return to original volume a lot slower. The same could be done with the attack, but the 3 milliseconds is just fine, at least for my intent. So, what can we do now? We can go back to Voicemeeter and leave the current compressor volumes alone. So I'll try to tweak that the output here is not lower than minus 55 decibels. In general, that works best for my configuration. And what I can do now is I can also lower the volume of the music in general. So if I now speak, you still hear that the music is muted a bit. And it works exactly the same for the other channel on channel number 5. If I would be having a Skype call that is using this channel, then the audio would be muted. For example, I frequently listen to a stream of the Whalepool, which is a TeamSpeak stream. So I connect to there.
I think I probably down.
And now you hear people speaking. And when they speak, the volume is muted.
Go ahead, Zeno.
I think it's going up. That's all I was, just saying. I think we'll tell you mooning.
on the inverse chart, right?
Oh, I got this thing upside down. Sorry, my bad.
I was trying to post a chart for these guys, and these guys are still bullish.
So as you heard, the stream of the TeamSpeak channel is using the comms channel, which I configured to use channel number 5. And when there's activity on that voice stream, the music is being muted. And now I have this thing with this foobar stream, but the same applies for Spotify, of course. I hope this was very useful for some of you. See you next time for another Voicemeeter tutorial.